Alright, season 3, episode 12 of Big Wolf on Campus, Dances Without Wolves, which is not what the episode title on YouTube says, but it's Dances Without Wolves. This episode really throws the continuity of the series out of whack. Where do I start with this? So we start off with Tommy saying that he always wonders, out of all the people in the world, why he was chosen to become the werewolf. Well, we already know why, because in season 1, here today, gone tomorrow, Mr. Dunleavy explains he chose Tommy because he saw the potential in him. Ignore that here. Also, Martin says that there might be a tarantula, half man, living around because he found what he thinks is an egg. And Tommy says if he misses one more practice, then he'll be, well, Chuck says that. If Dawkins misses one more practice, then he'll be riding Pine, which is, he'll be sitting on the bench. Season is over. Should we go back to the beginning of season 2 now and say that was the last game of the season? And I gotta remind you, all 3 seasons are supposed to be taking place in the same calendar school year, because they are all seniors, all 3 seasons. I said this when I first started reviewing the series, but from the first episode to the last, it is 1 school year. Why is there football practice when the season would be over? 2 episodes ago, we had a Christmas episode. Football season's done by Christmas. Why is there practice now, which would be in January by this point? What's more is this is one of those It's a Wonderful Life episodes. Those episodes compared to The Family Man, which is what Tommy says later. Tommy wishes he never became the werewolf, and somehow he's stuck in an alternate timeline in which he's not the werewolf anymore, and he's got a bum knee because he hurt it during a game. And he and Merton aren't friends anymore, and they're not friends with Lori anymore. First hiccup. If he wasn't the werewolf, Lori wouldn't be going to Pleasantville High. She'd still be at Pleasantville Catholic, at least as far as we know. I mean, she could have done one more thing. They get kicked out, but they never explained it other than she's still there. Because she got kicked out because Tommy Merton went over there to deal with Big Nasty. So, yeah. She took the fall for him. So, yeah, continuity is thrown out. Yeah, so in my opinion, like, Lori wouldn't be going to that school because he wouldn't be the werewolf. But to say that Tommy's life would be terrible because he wasn't the werewolf, like, giving him the bum knee, not being the captain of the football team anymore, and being head of the drama club now, doing a rendition of Grease. I don't know. Like, it's always been the thing of the series since the beginning, where Tommy always wanted to be free of this wolf curse, so he could be with Stacy, so he'd have a normal life, be a football team again, and to say, oh, well, you know, his life is better as the werewolf. I don't necessarily know if that's the right thing. Like, you always think, oh, my life would be better if this didn't happen. And I gotta think that if he didn't get bit by the werewolf in the first episode, his life would be better. This is not realistic to me. Like, some say, oh, well, not everything is happy, hunky-dory, happily ever after type thing. Yes, but a more realistic version would be that he's popular. He doesn't know Merton. Somebody else got bit that night, but it doesn't mean he needs to have a knee injury. You know, someone else could be a popular captain of the football team, but they basically like took what his life is, but it's Chuck is represented as being this guy who gets away with stuff. He's an evil werewolf, and we find out he's the werewolf in this, and Chuck wasn't even a character in season 1. He was introduced earlier this season. It's like the second time we've seen him, I think. But he's the werewolf now, and he's evil. And again, I gotta throw continuity out there, because if Chuck was the werewolf and he was evil, we would have an evil werewolf syndicate taking over the world. Because Chuck would gladly create more evil werewolves. This could have been a great two-parter. They could have really delved into the continuity of the show and kind of tried to straighten out a little bit. You know, Lori's not there because she's still a Pleasantville Catholic. Tommy and Merton don't know each other. Bring back Rochelle Lefevre and have her still be there, but she's Chuck's girlfriend because he's now the captain of the football team because of his skills. And Tommy is only second string. Do that. And you can have, you know, the werewolf syndicate kind of exist and take over because Chuck's an evil werewolf and he went along with their plan. You could have done something with this premise. Instead, and while I've always kind of liked this episode, you kind of just threw it out there, and it's not as much the family man as it is It's a Wonderful Life, and everything has to be bad for Tommy in his alternate universe for him to want to go back. You could have made it worse. You could have done a two-parter. You could have made it, you know, in the continuity of the show. Also, there were several villains that would have succeeded without Tommy being the good werewolf throughout the first 2.5 seasons of the show that I feel they did not even touch. There was so much you could have done with this. You know what I mean? There's so much. This could have been even a 3-parter if you did it right. You know? I could even say that you could have done this as a series finale. As sort of like, Tommy might not graduate because his grades are failing because he's the werewolf and he's been trying to save the world. And so he wishes he was never the werewolf. And so he's set into an alternate universe where the werewolf syndicate is now in charge. Chuck's an evil werewolf. Merton and Lori don't know who he is. Well, they know of him. Well, Merton knows of him, but they're not friends. He's going to try to convince them. Stacy's back. Is try to balance it up. Bring back minor characters. Make TNT werewolves. They were converted, but they end up being good werewolves in the end, helping Tommy. Something like that. Or maybe, you know, TNT has been this sort of antagonistic, not villains, but antagonistic force. Have them actually help in the end. You know what I mean? And have the timelines converge, sort of. I don't know. It's something they could have made bigger. This idea of an alternate timeline could have worked better if they had put more thought as to just a one-off. As I stated in the last review, where season 3 has no continuity through line. It's just one-offs each episode, just because it's basically like season 3 of Sliders, where like, oh, what if this happened? What if that happened? Like, basically, this is, what if Tommy became the werewolf? Or what if there was an evil Santa Claus? Or what if Becky found a genie? What if he fought a genie or something like that? What if, you know, that sort of thing. What if there was a demon running the school elections? What if an evil robot? What if we copied the Terminator? What if Merton became an evil werewolf? Yes, those are coming. What if there was an evil alien boy band? this seems like the what if season. Throwing everything, you know. Although, if the Marvel What If TV series handled it like this, I would have liked it better. I didn't like that they had to bring everything together at the end of the season, which is why I stopped reviewing the episodes. When they decided to bring everything together, I'm just like, no. It's an anthology series. They're not supposed to connect, but because this is Marvel, we gotta connect it in some way. So, yeah, that made it go down. But this, I don't know, this is not an episodic show. This is supposed to be a TV show with through-line continuity, and this episode just threw it out there. And you see how Ben telling shot for shot what's happening. Well, basically, Tommy figures out that Chuck is the werewolf, so he tries to convince Merton. He tries to convince Merton he was the werewolf, but he's not a werewolf anymore. He realizes he's not. And then they realize Chuck is the werewolf. They have to bring him down. They go after him with silver nitrate. It doesn't work. Laurie ends up on their side again. And then Tommy, quote unquote, dies, but it turns out he was bit by Chuck, so he turns into a werewolf. We have a wolf fight. And then, afterwards, Tommy's like, you know what? I like being a werewolf, and everything goes back to normal, and then he decides to help Merton find a tarantula, which was just golf balls in the swamp. So, yeah, I don't know. I used to really like this episode, but watching it again, especially going through the entire series and trying to keep the continuity straight in my damn head, this episode just sort of, it's not only continuity, it's a big, what could have been type situation. Like, they could have done this bigger and better. They could have made it 2 or 3 parts and had a real through-line story, because there's so much. By having the werewolf now be Chuck, who is evil in this version, there's so much you could have done with the continuity of the series. Well, we have an evil werewolf. Shouldn't the Syndicate be in control? Shouldn't there be an evil syndicate because they got the werewolf? Because you think Chuck would also be an alpha, so there could, if you just maybe the season 2 writers could have done something, but this, I don't know. This could have been better. It could have been better. But we're gonna move on. I've talked too much about it. To the next one then.